Hey everybody, it's Alex Miller at Capnion here. You may have seen that OpenAI of ChatGPT fame raised a whole lot of investment money from SoftBank, who is a very common big-time investor in startups. Interesting story circulating today. That investment comes with a bit of a catch, in that SoftBank can take half the money back if OpenAI fails to reincorporate as a for-profit company by the end of the year. This story alone is a little arcane. The bigger story it fits into is one of my favorites. So I'm going to tell a little bit of that story from the beginning and explain why this recent news about SoftBank is very interesting. So go back in time. OpenAI starts out as a not-for-profit research lab. That, in a sense, went really well, and they started trying to commercialize the technology. They are now a not-for-profit with a for-profit arm. You may recall that this probably corporate governance problem was at least in the background when they almost imploded a while ago and all decamped for Microsoft. In general, if you're a business person, this kind of thing should spook you just because it's never happened in this kind of big time setting before that I'm aware of. And nobody really knows what will happen, and that can make for interesting lawsuits. So what is the pressure that could drive a crisis around this corporate governance issue? Well, you see all these stories about OpenAI raises some massive amount of money. That's great. There's a little bit of a dark side in reading these news stories that you see, and that OpenAI needs to raise that money. They've grown really fast. There's really high expectations now. They're providing a lot of services to the world at tremendous loss. So they're in real danger of vacuuming up all the available venture capital money in the world. And if you look at a 20-year arc of this industry, it used to be more common that, like Google, for example, can't stay raising money in private markets forever, got to eventually go public to raise more capital. And also a way to give your investors an opportunity to get off the merry-go-round and take profits. Over the 20-something years since then, it became more and more true. Maybe you could raise money from venture capital investors forever and get really big that way. But OpenAI, in a sense, has been so successful in a kind of, well, we grew a lot, but we're really not at all making money and we need more investment kind of way that they have to IPO. I don't think that's terribly controversial, because otherwise they're going to hit this dead end of, is there just enough venture capital money in the world to keep growing? And that's where this corporate governance problem, in terms of profit for not-for-profit, it's sometimes even hard to say out loud what they're doing with their governance. They need to reincorporate as a for-profit corporation if they're going to go public. They need to go public to survive. The next layer of detail here, and we can bring in more famous names and have a really good time, is it's interesting to look at the saga of Elon Musk. And he's an example of a guy, almost certainly not the only one. He feels like he has a stake in OpenAI, and he's disgruntled about how it played out. And when you're an important concern and you want to reincorporate, there's a lot of different people that maybe should have a say, and there's potentially room for lawsuits about, is the board doing what it's doing? To take everybody's legitimate and, well, we'll decide if they're legitimate or not, concerns into account. So what if people sue? What if somebody like Elon Musk tries to sue again? Because it's such a weird corporate governance situation, because it's so novel, it's a little bit unclear, at the very least, how long will these lawsuits take? And that's where we come full circle to this rider that SoftBank has on their investment. They're putting it on a finite timeline for this to get done because of the legal risk that might or might not be attainable. And at some point it could be up to a judge and not up to Sam Altman how quickly he wants to reincorporate. This is a really super interesting story. It's a dark horse, but it's a pretty important dark horse in that it's not inconceivable this turns out to be OpenAI's Achilles heel. And certainly there's going to be a lot more interesting news involving a lot of famous, important people around it. So get your popcorn and stay tuned.